Designing Hollywood is very honored to welcome today's guest, Jerry Bruckheimer. Throughout your career, you always had a knack to find things that connected with the public in ways that I don't think any other producer realized. Was this a conscious thing?
Not at all. I just try to make both films and television that I want to see. That's really what it's all about. There's something that excites me if I read a script or see an idea or read a book. It's really about finding good material and try to get it into either on a screen, in a theater, or in your home.
When do you know that you have a film that's really working?
It's not until the movie opens in a theater after the first weekend, then you know if you have a success or a failure. Tom Cruise, he is the smartest man you're ever going to find as far as making movies. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being on the Designing Hollywood podcast.
Sure. Pleasure. It's always about the script. Better producer than I'll ever be. He's just on every little detail. And the reason is because he's worked with so many talented people, and he's like a sponge. He learns. He wants to learn. Even today, even on the movie, he's always questioning things, trying to expand his knowledge about everything. So he's somebody who loves being on a set, loves working hard, and has great instincts.
When you guys first worked together back in the 80s, did you know then that Tom Cruise was going to become one of the greatest forces in cinema history ever?
You never know, but you have an inkling that how good he was in Top Gun, the original Top Gun, and just the fact that even then he was a sponge. He was trying to learn, always asking questions, and then he goes on to work with some of the greatest directors and writers in our business. So he again absorbed all that knowledge, and he uses that every day when he makes the next movie.
Now, the kind of relationship that the two of you have together, how do you guys collaborate? I mean, I'm sure from the very beginning, do you develop the story with him? How do you guys interface on a daily basis in terms of the logistics of making a film?
No, he's in every meeting. He's in every story meeting. He's in every production meeting. He's involved. He's not an actor who just shows up and says, "Give me the script and I'll read the lines." He's involved from the casting to the writing to the production. Everything that we do, it goes through his filter, and rightfully so. He's earned that right, and he's so value added. He's amazing.
So when you get to say a picture lock on a film like Top Gun, do you then how does a film like that go in from your hands into, say, marketing, the studio? Do you have to then show it to the studio and then you all come up with a plan of attack on how to market the film?
Well, they see the movie when we preview it, and sometimes they see it before. And we always show them sequences, so they're part of everything. And then they'll design, along with Tom and everybody else, a marketing plan and a distribution plan. But Tom is involved in every one of those discussions.
Do you ever think that, like, I mean, when do you know in the process, when you're watching the first dailies that come in, and on this film, I would imagine that it had to have been exciting seeing aerial photography that had never been captured in the way that you guys were doing it. And when you were first getting this stuff in, did you feel that same jazzy feeling that an audience gets when they sat in that theater the first time to watch this movie? Because that point of view shot that they use in all the marketing, where you could see Cruise's face as he takes off from an aircraft carrier, I mean, that was amazing. You know, you can't fake that.
No, it's the way he wanted to make the movie. When we first pitched it to Paramount about 4 years ago, Tom said, "We got to hit a bullet with a bullet, and it has to be real. We have to train the actors to be able to withstand the G-forces." And so we spent 4 months training them in various aircraft till they finally got into an F-18, and they could handle it better. But still, it was really grueling. Their stomach churned every time they went up in those planes.
How do you interface with the military for something like this? Do you have to then go, and is it a hard sell to them? And what do you have to present to them to get their approval and cooperation?
Well, it was a hard sell the first time. The first time we went to them for the first Top Gun back in '86. Careers are made and lost by mistakes that happen. So if something happened on the filming of the first Top Gun, it would be a bad mark on the admiral who approved it. But Tom and I flew to Washington and met with John Lehman, who was the Secretary of the Navy. And he understood the value of a movie like this. And fortunately for us, he removed the admiral that was at North Island, who was head of Top Gun school at the time, not the head of the school, but the head of the base there, and gave us somebody who was very friendly to filming. Even though then they were a little bit frightened. But what happened after the movie came out, the recruiting went up 500%.
Well,
So the second time around, it was much easier to work with them. They bent over backwards like they did the first time to help us. Look, once you get past all the administrative things and work with the pilots and the technicians and the crews and public relations, they're fantastic all the way through the process. They're just amazing. The admiral of the base was had open arms for us. We just had a terrific time working with them. And what the most important thing for them was to show the Navy the way it is, not the way you think it is. The diversity of the Navy, the diversity of the pilots, the amount of women that are flying now, and also in the Top Gun school. So it's really interesting how the Navy has changed over the last 35 years.
Well, speaking of that, one of the great things about this film too is your cast of pilots, the new recruits. What a great group of actors you put together. Was that a long process to find everyone?
Sure, we told the actors when they came in that they were going to have to fly and they have to get up in the F-18s. And we had actors who said, "I'm afraid of flying. I'm sorry, I can't do it."
Wow.
So every actor that agreed to do this movie knew they were in for a long pre-production. They had to go through water survival training, which is enormously difficult in case they had to eject over water. So they were put in cages and blindfolded and thrown in underwater. They had to figure out how to get out of the cage. It was really difficult for everybody. Tom did it also.
Again, an incredible group of actors. Did it ever worry you though when they had to undergo this strict training? I mean, how does that work with SAG? Do you have problems with the union?
No, everybody was fine. The actors enjoyed it. A lot of them became pilots afterwards. They were a great group, and Joe Kaczynski and Tom and Chris, who helped with the casting, also. Just everybody made great choices.
Were you surprised by the enormous success of the film and how many? I have to tell you, I have had very few experiences in a theater like I've had watching this movie, because I think maybe people coming out of the pandemic, my God, hooting and hollering and clapping and crying when you bring Val Kilmer back, and it was incredible. And I wanted to ask you, was bringing Val Kilmer back, which is one of the most emotional moments of last year, was that something that was always part of the script?
Well, Tom said, "I'm not making the movie without Val," and Val came up with the idea for the character. Wow. So that's something that he and Tom and Chris and Joe worked on. Joe, spent enormous amount of time in the technical aspects and then working with the actors to get performances. And so it was really a group effort to get the picture to where it ended up when we finally put it in the theaters.
Well, I mean, it's an amazing film. Now, you also have the new Beverly Hills Cop film coming up, Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley, which is revisiting another one of your great iconic films of the 80s. And I think a lot of the audience is really excited for that. I saw today on Deadline, your director just got representation, great representation. And I got to tell you, Beverly Hills Cop's one of my favorite films of the 80s. And I'm very excited. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
Well, Eddie's back, and he's funnier than ever, and he looks fantastic. And he's a great dramatic actor. And also, as you know, there's nobody better at comedy than Eddie Murphy. So he's back to his antics.
And I'm curious, one of the great things about Beverly Hills Cop is the music. What an iconic score, Neutron Dance, things like that. Are you seeking out? Are we gonna hear that kind of iconic music again, updated to the 2020s?
I think so. I mean, that's the plan. We're still in the editor's cut right now, and we haven't actually picked a lot of the music. But I'm sure that we're planning on using some of the iconic songs and also score that we used in the original.
Is Harold Faltermeyer going to come back?
No, not this. Well, we're using his tune.
Sure.
But we have Lauren Banff, who worked with us on Bad Boys and also Top Gun.
Oh, that score is great. His work is incredible. Moving forward, I mean, are you the theatrical experience? You had Steven Spielberg just say, at least in the press, told Tom Cruise that you brought back the theatrical experience with Top Gun Maverick. Are you optimistic about the future of theatrical moviegoing?
Absolutely. It's up to us as filmmakers to make things that people want to spend money and leave their homes. You have a kitchen, but you still go out to eat. So there's always the experience that you want to have with a group. Top Gun proved it. I was in the Chinese theater when the picture opened. I went there the entire weekend and stood in the back and watched people clap and applaud and cry and laugh. And that's a great experience for me as a producer, to watch something that we worked on so hard and so long for an audience actually to enjoy it. And that's all we make it. We make it for audiences. And that's Tom's main mission, is to entertain audiences. That's what he wants to do.
Is there any film that you haven't been able to make, a dream project that you still plan on making?
We have about 35 projects in development all the time, and those are things we want to get made. And some move along quickly, and some move along slowly. But that's how we try to push these big boulders up the mountain. Some fall back on you, and some keep going. Look, it took 35 years to push the Top Gun boulder up the mountain. So we finally got there.
Well, listen, Mr. Bruckheimer, I want to thank you so very much for your time. I've been a huge fan, as I said, all the way back since I saw Thief, and I very much appreciated everything you've done over the last years, and I think I own a great deal of your movies in my own personal video collection, which I still believe in physical media. I hope you do too, because
we certainly do.
It's important. Well, thank you very much for your time. And
thank you. Thanks, Robert. Thanks for your time.